bends. Throughout human history, people from different cultures and backgrounds have described strange incidents where the boundaries of time and space seem to falter. Some report being yanked into the past or pushed into the future. Others describe walking into worlds that look eerily like ours, yet feel wrong. Often, these events last only moments. Sometimes, they leave marks that never fade, unlike tales of time machines or science fiction portals. These occurrences, known as time slips or dimensional rifts, are not orchestrated. They happen to ordinary people, unexpectedly. And in the rarest of cases, they alter lives forever. Philosophers and mystics across millennia have questioned the nature of time. The Greek thinker Plato, over 2,000 years ago, described time not as a linear force, but as a moving image of eternity. For him, time was more circular, mimicking the cycles of stars and planets, a rhythm rather than a rule. Many ancient religions and cultures carry stories of time working differently than we assume. In Hindu belief, time is cyclical, playing out in enormous spans called yugas, each lasting billions of years. In one tale, King Kakudmi leaves Earth to seek a divine match for his daughter. When he returns, countless generations have passed. In the Book of Enoch, part of Hebrew scripture, the prophet Enoch ascends to the heavens for what feels like 2 months. But when he comes back, centuries have gone by, yet his knowledge remains intact. From Ireland comes the tale of Oisin, who visits the mystical land of Tir na Nog. Upon returning, he instantly ages hundreds of years and dies. A recurring message echoes through these stories. Time, and possibly reality, is not fixed. Fast forward to the summer of 1901. 2 English academics, Charlotte and Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, were exploring the gardens of Versailles, France. What started as a simple sightseeing trip became one of the most famous time slip cases ever recorded. As they strolled the estate, both began to notice oddities. People in antique 18th century clothing appeared. The air felt heavy, and the surroundings seemed surreal, like they were walking through a painting. Eventually, a dark-eyed man directed them to a path, and just like that, everything snapped back to normal. They revisited the location many times, but never again found that strange path. Both women died convinced they had briefly stepped into another time. In Liverpool, England, a seemingly ordinary street, Bold Street, has gained an eerie reputation. Dozens of people have reported abrupt slips into past eras while walking there. Some enter old shops that shouldn't exist. Others see people dressed decades out of date. The common thread? A sudden, disorienting shift followed by a return to the present, often with no explanation. In the 1930s, a Royal Air Force officer, Sir Victor Goddard, flew over an abandoned airfield. But during his flight, the base suddenly appeared fully operational, with unfamiliar yellow planes and personnel bustling below. 4 years later, that same base was restored, down to the yellow aircraft. Goddard hadn't just imagined it, he'd somehow witnessed the future. In 1989, a humble electrician named Carl Ree set out to perform routine maintenance on a communications tower near Fort Campbell, Kentucky. It was a warm, sunny June morning. Carl brought his wife along for the countryside drive. She laid out a blanket in the grass while Carl and his crew worked on the tower. At 10:47 a.m., she watched Carl walk behind the structure to inspect some wiring. But he didn't come back. At first, nobody panicked. Maybe he was just obscured by the tower. But after several minutes, it became clear. Carl had vanished into thin air. The field around the tower was wide and flat. No trees, no buildings, no place to hide. He wasn't the prankster type either. Concern turned to fear. Security was called. Then, at exactly 11:03 a.m., just 16 minutes later, Carl stumbled back from behind the tower, pale, sweating, and visibly shaken. His wife rushed to him. But something was off. His wristwatch read 2:03 p.m. And Carl insisted. It wasn't a mistake. He had been gone for 3 hours. According to Carl, the moment he stepped behind the tower, he heard a high-pitched hum, like static electricity. The air shimmered. The landscape disappeared. Suddenly, he was inside a long concrete corridor, dimly lit with flickering yellow lights. It was silent, unnaturally so. Even his footsteps made no sound. As he moved down the hallway, he found a door with no handle, just a black panel. He touched it. The door beeped and opened. Inside was a room unlike anything he'd seen, walls lined with humming machines and glowing screens. But most startling were the two men in lab coats, one holding a potted plant. Carl said the plant detail stuck with him. It was too mundane to be a dream. Strangely, both men looked at him not with surprise, but recognition. One scribbled on a clipboard and slid a small metal disc toward Carl. He picked it up. It was warm and vibrating. Then, a voice rang out. "Not yet. You can't stay." A flash of light engulfed him. Carl described the sensation as being pulled through the eye of a needle. Moments later, he was back behind the tower. That night, Carl couldn't sleep. His head buzzed with thoughts, ideas, images. He scribbled them down, 11 pages of diagrams, notes, and symbols. He gave copies to his wife and pastor, urging them to keep them secret unless something happened to him. Over time, Carl's behavior changed. He refused to look at mirrors, claiming they were doorways, and covered everyone in the house. His marriage fell apart. He lived alone. In 2011, Carl died in a hospital, plagued by insomnia, anxiety, and nightmares. Staff recorded that he often muttered about red hallways, faceless beings, and rooms with no windows. After his death, his ex-wife shared his notes with a journalist. Among them was a cryptic phrase, Project Gateway. Carl said he saw the term on a screen in that strange room. He also wrote down a number he saw on the floor, 43-9-7221 at the time. No one understood its meaning. But years later, in 2003, declassified military records revealed a program called Project Gateway, focused on time and energy field manipulation. Even stranger? The number Carl recorded appeared in a 1991 military document linked to another secret initiative, JRIT, Joint Reconnaissance Integration Technology, a program nobody outside the government knew about at the time Carl vanished. 1 year earlier, in 1988, a man named David Hale drove through rural North Carolina in search of a warehouse job. He'd taken a route given to him by an employment office, but the directions didn't match up. Roads seemed wrong. Landmarks were missing. Frustrated but determined, he pressed on down a dirt road lined with tobacco fields. As he neared a sharp S-curve, a black vintage car appeared, speeding toward him. It was sleek, old-fashioned, and out of place. David watched in horror as the car failed to navigate the bend and crashed into a nearby field. After a few minutes with no sign of movement, he got out to help, but the field was empty. No car. No tire tracks. Nothing. Baffled, David continued to his interview. Late and flues, but on the return drive, things got weirder. The road had changed. No S-curve. No dirt. Just pavement. Yet when he passed that same field, something caught his eye. A rusted-out car. The exact same model from earlier, overgrown with weeds. It had clearly been abandoned for decades, that he told his friends. Few believed him. But David knew what he saw. It was a crash that had happened 40 years too soon. In May 1972, four college students drove through Utah's desolate Gedanton Canyon late one night. They were headed back to campus after a rodeo and wanted to make it back before curfew. Taking a known shortcut, they dipped into the dark canyon. Soon, the road narrowed. The desert began to change. Asphalt became cracked concrete. The familiar red dust gave way to neat rows of alien vegetation. Then came the moonlight. Odd, since there hadn't been a moon earlier. Ahead, they spotted a strange building with symbols unlike any language they knew. Believing it to be a rest stop, they slowed until several tall, inhuman figures emerged from the building, yelling in a foreign tongue. Their proportions were unnatural, their movements wrong. Terrified, the women fled. But soon, glowing vehicles appeared behind them, egg-shaped crafts with 3 wheels and a single headlight each. The chase ended in a flash of blinding light. The next moment, they were in the Nevada desert. The car was broken, 3 tires flat, the terrain too rough to drive. They spent the night there and found their way to safety by morning. An investigation revealed a disturbing detail. The car's tire tracks led into the desert, vanished for several meters, and then resumed. No sign of skidding, no external force, just a break in space.